Morning. Thanks for being here. It's great to be in San Antonio and be with friends and new faces. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Kim Cochran. I'm the Senior Director of Education for Children at Risk. It's great to be with you. We are starting our month-long Texas tour and push for Prop 2. And so we are glad to be in your city. And there is a music building. Good audience that we have really. Very good. All right, great. Again, my name is Kim Cochran and glad to have you with us. And glad for you to join us today to talk about childcare. Texas families and the Texas economy need a strong childcare system to thrive. Currently in the Alamo area, there are only 28 childcare seats per 100 children of low-income families and only 9 high-quality seats. When Texas families don't have childcare, the Texas businesses don't work. And when Texas businesses don't work, the entire economy suffers. As you may know, the childcare funding cliff is here. The $4.1 billion of emergency federal funding that came into Texas to support childcare has been spent. In the Alamo area, about 81% of our childcare providers took advantage of those resources. They help keep those doors open, help keep tuition down and wages up for childcare workers. As without those dollars, childcare providers are in the Alamo region will have an even harder time to make ends meet. However, on November 7th, Texas has an opportunity to say yes to childcare. On the ballot this November, there are several constitutional amendments, including Proposition 2. Prop 2 will provide much needed property tax relief for childcare providers serving low income families. In fact, it will allow cities and counties to give a 50 to 100% property tax relief on city and county taxes. Prop 2 is when Prop 2 is passed on November 7th, all local and city counties will need to take action to make sure their centers and their communities can benefit from those. The dollars saved will be able to keep tuition low, support childcare wages, and investments back into the classrooms for our young children. So we have several panelists here today. We are blessed to be with United Way, and so we're going to start with United Way's San Antonio, Chris Martin.
Thanks, Kim. And let me start by thanking each of you for joining us today as we talk about this important issue for our community, but for communities across the entire state. And let me also, like Michael, welcome you to United Way. We're really pleased and happy that we had the opportunity to host this press conference. And one of the things that we'll do today is you're gonna hear a little bit about the barriers that our child care centers face in our communities, and they are numerous. When you think about things like staffing, and you think about things like funding, and you think about, bottom line is think about capacity and the ability to deliver more services to kids that need it, more kids in our community that need it. And with the support of everyone in our community and our elected officials, certainly, we can change that. We can improve the system, and we can bring opportunities to more people in our community. And child care centers will be better prepared to deliver quality early education opportunities and the instruction, the nurturing, and the safe and resource-rich environments that our kids need. And when you think about the fact that 90% of the brain is developed by the age of 5, that should tell you the importance of this issue. That should tell you why we need to invest in our early childhood system. It is critical for the future of our city. And without investing in it, we will be challenged to be stronger as a city and as a community in the future. One of United Way's important roles is to serve as a convener, to bring people together, bring organizations together, bring elected officials together, bring the public together to discuss and act on the issues that are so important in our community. And this is one of them. And we're certainly here today to listen to the needs of our child care centers and their families, and then to determine how we can create meaningful collective impact that will provide relief to families and their children by empowering the centers themselves. This year, we went to the state capitol in Austin, and among the many items we advocated for as we spoke with the legislators, we need to ensure and increase access to affordable, high-quality child care. Not only that, we need to strengthen the child care industry as an essential workforce as an essential workforce and support, because bottom line is, they're an important part of our workforce that oftentimes people forget. And we need to find a way to invest in them as well. Without our community's childcare centers, businesses in our community would not have the workers that keep our city running every day. And if we do not continue to support our childcare centers, children today will not receive the quality of instruction that they need to be better prepared for school and for life, as well as to eventually become members of our future workforce. Here at United Way, we're taking work that we've been doing for years to help increase access to quality childcare in Bear County. We're amplifying it through partnerships like the one we share with Workforce Solutions Alamo and Region 20. The partnership drives the Alamo Quality Pathway, an initiative that convenes coaches, directors, Texas Rising Star mentors, and childcare licensing to identify challenges and share best practices while providing aligned resources and assistance to local childcare centers to help them achieve Texas Rising Star certification and improve the quality of care for their children and improve the quality of life for their staff, making meaningful impact in the staff as well as the lives of the children that they are supporting and teaching, by the way. By supporting childcare centers, we're removing barriers for so many people. Really, there are very few people that this issue does not touch in our community, very few. And when we support our childcare centers, we empower them to do what they do best and provide tremendous learning environments for our city's children that lead to our children receiving a better early childhood education. And that's what we all want to see. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for joining us today. With you, if we unite together, we can have meaningful impact in this industry for our children and in this community. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks again for hosting us. Next, we're going to have Adrian Lopez, who is the CEO of Alamo.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you, Chris, for having us here. Honored to be here amongst the elected officials. So, as you get older, you have to use these things. So, for those of you who are young, it's been a great eye. So, again, my name is Adrian Lopez. I am the CEO for Workforce Solutions Alamo. We are one of the 28 workforce boards in Texas, and happy to secure the dollars that the state is so gracious to give us. What this means on an annual basis in terms of this particular topic is that we invest over $100 million into early childhood development each year within the 13 counties that we serve. This investment provides thousands of families and children access to childcare and hundreds of childcare providers the ability to operate in a very challenging environment. Let me be clear about sort of what this means in terms of, what this means practically to people on a daily basis. This $100 million investment allows us to have 12,000 kids on a daily basis in childcare slots, right, every single day. That allows about 8,000 families the ability to receive the benefit of childcare. So it's a dual strategy associated to workforce development. Child who is receiving quality child care will have better outcomes over the long term. The parent has the ability then to go back to school, to get trained, or to be employed. Now, for an organization like us, with Workforce Solutions Alamo, it's all about the numbers and the return on that investment. And so what that means for those families that are working, they're earning about $18 million on a monthly basis. Right, $18 million times 12, just a little over $200 million. So we're investing $100 million, right, for the ability for children to be in childcare, but also for the parent to be able to go back to school to get trained and get employed. That return on investment is twofold, right? Not only from the perspective of the earnings, but also from the perspective of what that child is going to receive over the long term. Today, we sit at 4.3% unemployment in this region. In Texas, we are the #1 state when it comes to the production of jobs. No other state, has produced the number of jobs that Texas has produced. and has not come out of the pandemic faster than any other state, right? So this state is definitely trailblazing in that regards. This region is trailblazing in that regard. Year over year, August of 2022 to August of 2023, about 27,000 jobs were added in this particular region. We're producing jobs at a faster rate than we can produce people. This issue of childcare is actually one of the major barriers to folks being able to get back to work and back to school. Right? That means about 57,000 folks today are actually unemployed that are out of the 1.3 million folks that are in our labor force. And by the way, our labor force actually increased. So for those who have said, you know, people want to go back to work, our labor force has increased over the last 3 years about 10%, right? So we're still producing opportunities for getting folks back to work. As I mentioned, the number one barrier to employment continues to be access to childcare. In addition to providing subsidies for childcare scholarships, we also work with our partners with United Way, Region 20, and others. For example, as Chris mentioned, the Alamo Quality Pathway to increase the number of quality early learning programs. In addition, this past year, these partnerships have also been coupled with investments of approximately about $1.2 million invested into child care centers for curriculum, for teacher stipends, and for other items that are proved, you know, vital to support for child care centers. However, these challenges of operating small businesses, because if we look at ultimately what we're supporting here, we're ultimately supporting small businesses to be able to provide access to childcare. Right? These are mom and pop operations. So investments such as this, as the 1.2 million and the $100 million investments, those are all critical to ensuring that our small business community continues to thrive. However, that's not enough, right? And so, you know, while I am prohibited from, and I want to say this officially, I am prohibited from lobbying in my official capacity as a CEO for Workforce Solutions Alamo. But I can say this, is that based on our experience and our expertise and the addition of tools for child providers like Prop 2 can actually be the difference between centers remaining open. Those are going to be able to expand slots and to increase quality. So WSA remains steadfast to continue to support childcare providers in the Alamo region. And I just want to say thanks to the partnerships that we continue to have with United Way, Region 20. Thanks to the elected officials for their continued support in this important issue. It does make a difference to our local economies, and certainly I go throughout the region. Today I'll be in Guadalupe County talking to some folks there. Childcare is key to ensuring that those communities are viable. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Adrian, and thanks for your continued leadership here in Alamo. So one of the very reasons we are here today is because of childcare, and none other than to give us a good perspective of what's happening out there in our communities is our owner of Learning Tree Academy, Kamari.
Good morning. My name is Kamari Tabulor, and I've been a director at Learning Tree Academy for 22 years. I have seen my property tax increase by 2.5 times what it was when I started. As I was already struggling prior to COVID for paying our property tax, it continues to be a struggle. When COVID happened, I lost 50% of my staff and went from a daycare that had a low employee turnover rate and a great program and very competitive prices to a program that struggled to fulfill staffing needs and found it hard to keep that stability that young children need. In fact, during COVID, I had to close entire classrooms, not because I didn't have space, it's because I didn't have staff. So we closed entire classrooms and turned people away, and we didn't have a choice. When I experienced this high turnover, it was with the newer staff. And just when I think I had trained someone well enough that they could be on their own, they would leave. I began to think it was me and I was doing something as a boss or not doing something. And as I turned to other childcare directors for support, I found that we were all suffering the same plight. No one wanted to work in our industry. And then United Way came to my saving grace. They conducted a wage study at my facility, and it helped me learn a couple of things. First, I realized that if we could pay teachers a decent wage, they would stay. I went from cycling through over 20 employees in 1 year to only 8 the following year during the wage study. In order to make this wage bracket sustainable, I would need to raise the tuition for each child by over $30 per week. And in some parts of San Antonio, that's very possible. But where I am, the demographic that I serve, they have their own financial struggles. I've had parents actually pay me in pennies, nickels, and dimes, the loose change they found in their couch, to pay for that tuition and to keep their children at the daycare center. And with inflation as high as it is now, I don't feel that I can comfortably make that level of increase for my parents. So I don't feel like I can make them choose between feeding their child or securing a spot in the daycare. The federal assistance that we received last year kept me from having to raise those rates. I was able to keep my staff at a higher wage without passing that cost on to my parents. Keeping my staff means that these kids are greeted with the same warm smile from the same teacher that they truly love every day. That teacher knows how to reach each child in their care. They know what makes them tick and what makes them calm down. That security is invaluable to these children. With the end of that federal assistance, I'm forced to increase their tuition. I'm hoping that if we can reduce some of our expenses, such as property tax, then more options will be available to us. For example, I can use these savings to open another classroom and alleviate the months-long waiting list that I have in some of my age groups. Some of my classes, I have a waiting list until May of the following year. My goal is to make sure that all my families are able to keep their daycare and continue to give them the loving environment and nurturing that each of these children need, along with a great education and preparing them for the next chapter of their lives.
And that is why we do what we do every day. So, the other reason we are all here today is because our 88th legislative session was able to pass a bill and a continuing resolution to give us Prop 2. And so we are very thankful to our legislators, especially the ones that are here today, as well as all of them, to make sure that we are here and have this opportunity to really do make a difference for our young children and our working families. So we are going to start off with Senator Menendez. Thank you for being here, and we'll share a few words.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to keep it short. We have lots of folks, lots of good people that have a lot to say, but I can't add any more to the importance of why we're here and why we did what we did. I just wish that we could have done more to make it possible. I mean, look, the science is clear. If 90% of their brain is developed by age 5, those formative years between 0 and 5 are critical. So critical. And I can only imagine how frightening it must be for parents who feel like they have nowhere else to go but your classroom, and then to have the disruption of not having the continuance of the same teacher. And so I am so happy that we're able to have this proposition. I wish we could have done more. I know,
you know what's funny about happiness?
that kind of scary. I was listening all the way over there. I love to go get out, look on the side. I'm just gonna close. It's so good to see my colleagues, from the House, that worked so hard for so long, Barbara Griffin Hawkins, Ray Lopez, Angela Bernal, And we're all here because we care about making sure that we pass Prop 2. And I want to thank you all for being here. Passing Prop 2 is not only going to, the most important thing, it's going to be good for the children. And being good for the children means the parents will have the peace of mind to be able to go look for a good job or get that education that they need, that increased education so they can get a better job. So in the end, by doing the right thing, we're going to make Texas a stronger state and a state with a better prepared population for work. So let's get out there. Let's make sure this passes. There's a lot of other good propositions on there. We're going to take care of our retired teachers. We got to extend broadband for everybody for today. We'll focus on Prop 2. I'm hopeful. I haven't seen that we have anything we should be against as of now. I don't see anything that's up there. But this proposition had overwhelming bipartisan support. It was super majorities. And so it's something that we can all get behind. And I'm just, look, the most important thing is that each and every one of us, we can reach out to our friends and family and make sure that they exercise their right to vote in November and get out there and pass this, make sure this passes. Thank you all for the invitation.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. And now we're going to switch over to Temple. So Representative Bernal, would you like to speak?
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm your running a good state rep for House 123, which we're in right now. I have 3 hats. I'm gonna switch them very quickly. Also, I know what it's like when a whole bunch of us wearing suits come up and sort of say a bunch of stuff real quickly. But the first hat is that of a dad. I have a 6-year-old, which, by the way, if the science says that most of her brain is formed by 5, that's terrifying. But we sent her to a mom and pop daycare and school. And so I've seen that place evolve from being operated out of someone's living room to a facility. And the challenge that they face, not just because of COVID, but because of staffing and inflation and everything else, makes them the poster child of prime candidate for exactly what you're talking about. So as a parent, knowing that the kids would be better off, that means a lot to me. But the other is I'm the chair of the Early Childhood Caucus. We have the ED Brown here. We care very much about strong, dedicated, surgical, muscular, dynamic policy, and all we care about are the kids. If it's a bill that's by all Republicans and it benefits kids, we're with it. If it's all Democrats, we're with it. In this case, it's both, which is a sort of sign that we should all get on board. But I wouldn't be a good politician if I didn't make this about me for a minute. So let me explain this. And it's a lesson for all of us. I had this bill. I had a bill like it. But my bill wasn't as aggressive in the tax breaking that this one was. And when I saw this bill, I think it's Senator West who filed it and Representative Tellerico who got it in the House. Not only did I stand aside, put my ego in my back pocket, but also the caucus, and the caucus can't take credit for passing it. Part of our job is to make sure that people know about it and that they're aware of it and that they endorse it and they vote for it. My point is that in having been here long enough, sometimes you think, well, this is what I know will pass. This is what I think has a chance. This is what I believe people have an appetite for. And I was wrong. You can be more aspirational. You can be more aggressive. You can be less of a politician and more of a father, less of a politician and more of someone who's from San Antonio, right? Whatever part of Texas you're from. And so I think it behooves all of us, important for all of us to be as aggressive, to be as ambitious, to be as aspirational, even ideological, and idealistic on behalf of our kids. And so I think that there's a lesson there. And one of the first ways that we can all start to do that is by voting for this proposition. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Bernal. Next up is Representative Lopez.
Well, thanks everybody for being out here this morning. I think we're all in the same place. So trying to convince you to vote is not the issue, right? Trying to convince you that this is the right thing to do is not the issue. It's kind of making sure that we understand that there's a strategy to get people to come to the polls. Senator, you mentioned that it was a super majority of both houses, and it was. That means that it's got a lot of bipartisan support. What we need then is to address the issue of turnout. I think that that's gonna be okay, particularly since last week I was, as you were, Barbara, with the Retired Teachers Association, and they're very interested in some of the things you were talking about. We were talking to a group of other individuals, and our task really is to make sure that they don't come in and just vote for one thing, the thing that's personally important to them, but that they go through the entire proposition list. There's a handful of them on there. I'll let each of you be the judge of whether you want to support them or not. But I don't know of any of them that are most impactful for our future than this one. And so for that, I stand up here with all of you, trying to encourage all that. Although before I get off leave the podium, I want to kind of put a little bit of I don't think it's going to be guilt, but put a little bit of blame of my involvement in just local governance on the United Way. Back in the mid-80s, I worked for AT&T and I retired from there after 34 years of service. We were kind of floating around that trying to figure out exactly what we were going to do. The divestiture had just happened, the breakup, the Marvell breakup, and my bosses decided that because of my community relations involvement, that maybe I ought to be loaned over to the United Way as a loan executive. And all of a sudden, I am the guy that's going to the United Way on behalf of AT&T. I got to serve as a loan executive, allocations panel, you name it, I was there. What that did was made me pretty biased by virtue of putting on the United Way lens. And it's not a lens that says I'm going to support anything and everything the United Way says. It's a lens that says I understand what the United Way stands for, and it is improvement of our community. After that, it wasn't long. I got kind of talked into maybe trying to run for the school board, which I did. Served about a decade there. After that, got on to Region 20. I think it got mentioned as well. Again, trying to focus on those kinds of things that are important. And in every case, it's about young people. Making sure that we're making the investment and, planting seeds and harvesting them, caring for them and nurturing them. Then, eventually got onto city council. One of the biggest things that I know Diego and I are very, very proud of, and I'm sure the senator and Representative Hawkins are equally proud, but when we were there, we were able to pass the pre-K for SA concept, which is kind of a different thing, right? For a city to kind of become, are y'all in the school district or what's up with all that? And he said, no, what we need to do is make sure the kids are getting nurtured and being able to read by the time they're in the 3rd grade. You can't start in the 3rd grade. You got to start in pre-K. I would argue that you got to start, prenatal. Right? When you go where you can make the most logical, practical impact, and that was the pre-K program, which we started for, and now as proving that it has been incredibly successful and just glad to be able to have it. I've been on now as a state rep for my 3rd term. In every case, I've tried to. I can't seem to take the United Way lenses off, and I see everything from that perspective. How do we care for our children? Last couple of sessions, I introduced a bill. Many of you were there to help me testify for it, try to get it passed, and it dealt with childcare, particularly the amount of money that we're not putting into childcare and the gap between what we pay for parents to be able to afford the childcare versus what it costs to deliver the service. There's a huge gap. And we've got to be able to fund that. That will help the process. By virtue of being able to, we heard great testimony on what's happening by not addressing the facility component. If you have no place to put them, but you have the money, now what do you do? Right, so all of these have to come together. My commitment to you is to leave those United Way lenses on my face for the rest of my life. Continue to work with you as I know you are committed to the same principles, and we will get this passed. The turnout is going to be a little light, but that's okay, as long as the vast majority, and I think it will mirror what the House and the Senate did, pass with a super majority. So let's go get them. Thank you very much for
Representative Lopez, and last but certainly not least, Representative Hawkins is going to go through it.
I heard they say the best for last. I just want to say I did everything that my colleagues have said, and one of the things that I bring in a perspective as an educator myself, I'm a certified middle school math teacher and a school administrator. I fully understand the value of early education and working with our young people from the crib until they become pre-K. And so this proposition is so important to all of us. So I'm gonna do a call to action. Make sure your network knows that this is on the ballot. So when people go and they see a lot of different propositions on the ballot, they don't just say, I don't want to read all of this, right? So let's educate folks early and make sure that they know what Proposition 2 stands for, because it is critical. The other thing I want to share is that having been involved in education in the city of San Antonio for a number of years, I think most of you know the historical data. We've suffered from some of what I call the most challenging things, high school dropout rates, high poverty, all of those things. We as a city have suffered from all of that. I believe we're getting ready to change that through educating our young people to be prepared to take advantage of some of these awesome jobs out here. Think about what's happening at Brooks, cybersecurity. I mean, we've got so many things. And what I love about the city of San Antonio is the diversity in employment. Tourism, opportunities there, entrepreneurship, opportunities are there, technology. But we can't sustain that if we don't have a prepared labor force. And that's why the return on investment for this, starting supporting our young very early, making sure that our child care centers have what they need, also springboarding up to our early elementary, all of this, we're making these investments now. So for generations to come, we continue to grow that labor force. I would love, before I leave this life, to be able to see San Antonio really prospering in the sense of decreasing our poverty rate, decreasing our high school dropout rate. I come from Detroit, Michigan. One of the things when we graduate from high school in Detroit was you work for one of the big three. And if you know the workforce, really, the auto industry played a big role in creating the middle class in Michigan. I believe that we can do that here in San Antonio, and we start with our young. So again, ditto and all of my colleagues have said, we're vested in this. We want this to happen, and we know it's going to impact generations of people, of young people, but more importantly, our small businesses and how we can support this. So whatever we need to do to be able to continue to wave that banner of support and success so that we can hopefully pass this proposition by over 80%. That would be a good thing, okay? That should be our goal, but we're gonna need everybody in this room pushing the envelope and making sure we personally commit to get people to the polls, educate people on what the benefits, and make sure that our voices are heard. So thank you for having us today.
Thank you all for being here and learning more about Prop 2. Like the representative said, go out and tell your networks, go tell your friends, your family, your church, your faith community, your schools, all of it, to make sure they go out and vote on not only this proposition, but all the propositions that are on the ballot this November. So thanks again for being here, representatives and senators. Thank you for being here and your continued support. We are going to conclude our press conference now and then transition into our Texas tour. So we'll take a few moments and go up, get some refreshments, use the restroom, and then come on back. So thank you so much.